For years, the go-to treatment for hair loss has been a pretty powerful pharmaceutical. But what if one of its biggest rivals has been hiding in your kitchen cabinet this whole time? We're about to dive into the science that shows how simple rosemary oil actually goes head-to-head with the industry giant minoxidil. And look, this battle for your hair, it starts long before you ever see the evidence. By the time you notice a little more hair in your brush, the real damage was already done months earlier, deep down in your scalp. It's a silent, totally invisible conflict, but it's one you can absolutely fight back against. So let's take a look at the battlefield. The story of thinning hair really begins right here, with the hair follicle. This tiny little factory where your hair is born is basically under a constant attack, and often from two directions at the exact same time. These two enemies, they work together in this really coordinated assault. One is hormonal, attacking the follicle itself, while the other cuts off its vital supply lines, essentially starving it from the inside out. Let's put a name to these villains. Okay, first up is the hormonal aggressor. You've probably heard of it, but a lot of people don't realize just how directly it impacts their hair. It's called DHT. So here's the deal with DHT. It's pretty much the #1 enemy of hair growth. It latches onto your hair follicles, and over time, it literally squeezes the life out of them. Each new hair that manages to grow back is thinner and weaker, until, well, the follicle just gives up entirely. But DHT isn't working alone. At the exact same time, a second problem is developing. This one is all about logistics, about supply and demand. It's a famine right at the root level. Think of it like this. Your hair follicles are little factories that need raw materials, oxygen, nutrients, and those are delivered by this highway of tiny blood vessels. Well, as we get older, those highways can get clogged up or restricted. Blood flow can actually decrease by up to 40%. And when the supply trucks stop arriving, that factory just shuts down. And here it is. This is the result of that two-front war. On the left, you see a healthy, well-fed follicle that's producing a thick, strong hair. But on the right, well, that's a follicle that's been shrunken by DHT and starved by poor blood flow. The only thing it can produce now is a weak, thin, brittle strand. This is literally what hair thinning looks like at a microscopic level. So, how do you fight a two-front war? You need an ally that can attack both problems at once. And that's exactly where rosemary oil begins its counteroffensive. And listen, this isn't magic. It's pure biochemistry. Rosemary's power comes from these very specific active compounds called diterpenes. When you apply the oil to your scalp, you're basically delivering these potent little molecules directly to the battleground. And these diterpenes are incredible multitaskers. They launch a two-pronged counterattack that directly takes on the two villains we just met. They force open the blood vessels, and they stop DHT right in its tracks. So this first action is called vasodilation. The diterpenes basically signal the tiny constricted blood vessels around your follicles to relax and just widen. This reopens that supply highway, allowing a rush of oxygen and nutrient-rich blood to flood those starving roots, which effectively ends the famine. And at the very same time, those compounds go on the defense. They interfere with DHT's ability to even latch onto your follicles, creating a kind of protective shield. This stops the shrinking process cold, giving the follicle a chance to finally recover and get back to its main job, growing healthy hair. So, this all sounds great in theory, but how does it stack up against the pharmaceutical gold standard? This is where the story gets really compelling, thanks to a head-to-head clinical trial. Researchers set up a direct comparison: rosemary oil versus minoxidil, the active ingredient in things like Rogaine. And they didn't just check in after a week or two. No, they tracked participants for a full 6 months to see the real-world results. And you have to see this. The results were, for all practical purposes, identical. Both groups saw a significant increase in new hair growth. This wasn't a case of the natural remedy being almost as good. In this study, it performed just as well. So the final verdict was clear. A simple, natural essential oil delivered the exact same results as the leading pharmaceutical treatment. And there was one key difference noted in the study. The rosemary oil group actually reported less scalp irritation. Okay, so knowing all this, how do you actually put it into practice? The protocol they used in the studies is incredibly simple, and it's something anyone can do at home. It just breaks down into 3 easy steps. First, you mix. Take about 5 to 10 drops of pure rosemary essential oil and just mix it with a tablespoon of a carrier oil like coconut or olive oil. Second, massage. Apply it right to your scalp and massage it in firmly for 2 or 3 minutes. This helps boost blood flow while the oil gets to work. And third, you wait. Just let it sit for at least 30 minutes before you wash it out. That's it. For the best results, you probably want to aim for 3 to 4 times a week. And that leaves us with a fascinating final thought, doesn't it? When a common herb can stand toe-to-toe with a multi-million-dollar pharmaceutical, it really makes you wonder what other powerful natural solutions are just hiding in plain sight, waiting to be rediscovered. It seems the battle for your hair might just be won with a little bit of science and a trip to the pantry.